How to choose a domain name. The 5 tips that will help you make the right choice. Your domain name can make or break your website. It could be the difference between getting a handful of visitors a month versus millions of visitors a month. So it's definitely something you should seriously consider. So in this video, I will break down the 5 tips that will help you come up with the winning domain name. So tip number 1, make sure your domain name is brandable. It is way better in the long run to have a brandable domain name versus a generic one. Brandable domain names could be a lot more memorable, unique, and that will lead into having more visitors and the popularity of your website increasing. An example is coca-cola.com versus awesomesodas.com. You see the clear difference right there. So how can you create a brandable name? So you could do that by making up a new word, for instance Google, Bing, or Yahoo. Or you could combine words to create a new word such as Facebook, Pinterest, or you can even use a thesaurus to look for existing words that describe your website perfectly. So tip number 2, size of a domain name matters. The shorter the domain name, the better. Here's an example of a short domain name, hotels.com, versus a long domain name, hotels that are good and affordable.com. Hotels.com will win by far. It's a lot shorter, a lot easier to remember, easier to type, and it does not feel overwhelming to your website visitors. So tip number 3, try to get a domain name that is super easy to spell. It should be very easy for your visitors to go to their browser, type in your domain name, and get to your website. You shouldn't have to spell out your domain name to your future visitors every time they want to know what your domain name is. Example, hotels.com, easy to spell, versus huddlesforcheap.com. You see the difference there. Tip number 4, try to get a domain name that is easy to pronounce. The domain name should just roll off the tongue. The harder it is to pronounce, more than likely the harder it will be to spell. So try to look for an easy to pronounce domain name. Tip number 5, hyphens are no good. They just add an unnecessary level of complexity to your domain name, and you should try to avoid making your domain name complicated in any way whatsoever. The example of my website, buildnewwebsite.com, I believe it would have been a lot more difficult compared to build-new-website.com. So try to get a domain name that does not have any hyphens. Bonus tip, .com is king. .com is by far the most widely used and trusted domain name extension in the whole internet. So try to get a .com domain name because it's going to make your website a lot easier to get to. So example, youtube.com versus youtube.net or .me or .xyz. You see how powerful .com is. So be sure to use those tips when deciding on what domain name you want to buy. But before you buy, watch my other YouTube video on how to buy a domain name. In that video, I will share the number 1 tip that will save you hundreds of dollars every year. The link to that video is in the description. And I also have a 100% free ebook that will help you build your first website and avoid expensive mistakes that I've made in the past. Some of the things that I talk about in the ebook are the different website types and what website type is going to be best for you, how to choose and buy a domain name, web hosting do's and don'ts, and last but not least, a step-by-step guide to build your own website with no coding involved whatsoever. So you can get the 100% free ebook by going to buildnewwebsite.com/ebook or by clicking the link in the description. Thank you for watching this video. Please leave a comment. I would like to know which tips helped you out the most when choosing your domain name. And also, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to help. Also, please subscribe to this channel. I'll be providing a lot of tips and tricks when it comes to building your website. See you in the next video.